That will not distract our class. So we are all welcome once again. Sorry for the itches. Normally workshops start like this, the very first day. There are quite a number of itches, but at the end of the day, we'll put everything together. And by tomorrow, we have a very stable situation. Yeah, by God's grace. So, like, you're all welcome once again. We all know the essence of this workshop. The essence of this workshop is to enable every one of us that is participating in this workshop to be able to, let me say, build, set up, and manage high-performance computing. And it's based, like you can see the title of the workshop, is basically is a basic and intermediary situation. So we are not going advanced. And we believe that there are people among us here that are not yet advanced, even in small, probably even in Linux. And that is why we want to just have an introduction to Linux today. We'll be sharing the timetable to us maybe by the close of today of several topics that we'll be taking under the high performance computing. Those other facilitators will be joining us starting from tomorrow for the high performance computing, the security, the Kubernetes, and all the rest. They will start their own from next week. But from tomorrow now, we'll be dealing strictly on high performance computing. But today, what we are just going to be looking at is just Linux. We are not doing anything beyond Linux, and it's just going to be basic and introduction to Linux even for some of us, it's just to refresh our knowledge. For some of us that are good in Linux, but we have not used it for quite a number of times, quite a long time ago, it's just for a kind of refreshment. And for those people that don't even know anything about Linux, I think we are going to do some kind of basic introduction this morning or for today. And I believe that by the end of everything, we'll all be glad that we came. We all know what Linux is. Okay, one thing again is that, whenever I'm taking a class like this, most especially a practical class like this, I always want it to be interactive. I want us to debate, ask questions, because we might not even go far, but the little thing we are going to discuss, I always want us to go home with something, not that I'm just firing on, and at the end of the day, no one is even getting anything. So I always want it to be very, very interactive. Instead of doing 100 things and no one gets anything, it's better I do 20, and then I'm sure that at least you get those 20 things that we discussed on. You can now go home and build on those other things. And I believe we should apply that to every other classes. If you have the fundamentals, going home to build on it will not be a problem. I hope the French people are hearing what I'm saying. Is there anyone that have difficulties in understanding what I'm saying? Are you getting it, please?
Yes, we understand you.
Please. Are you getting it? Yes. Okay. Okay, I should not be that fast. Am I too fast? No, it is. Yeah, okay. Okay. So please, there have to be communication. This is just introduction, but we have to be together. In any class like this, communication is very important. So when I'm saying something and you are not getting what I'm saying, please, communication is two ways, not just one way. And this is a teaching class, so there has to be interaction, please. So, anything I'm saying, please, this is a class where we are a team. And please, if you are not getting anything, please, most especially the French-speaking countries, I will try as much as possible not to be that fast so that we can get whatever I'm saying. But if I'm that too fast, please just raise up your hand and then so that I can calm down a little bit. Please. Like I said, let it be interactive. Do we get it? And then ask questions anytime you want to ask questions. And we have people around there. I have professionals around here. There are questions that I might not be able to answer. They will also answer. We are all professionals. I want to believe 90, almost all of us here, we are all professionals. So, Linux, a brief introduction of Linux. What is Linux? I say it's interactive. What we are doing now, at least before the breakfast, we are going to be discussing theory. We are going to discuss some basic things theory before we go on our server. I hope you all have your login. I will give you the IP very soon when we want to go practical. You all have the, how many of you have not gotten your username and your password? You have not shared it. Please share it. Just share it. They don't have the IP, so they can't log in now. So please share the username and the password for the server they will be logging into. So, but now, like I said, what is Linux? Yeah. He's talking from an advanced, yeah. It's a kernel. I agree with him. But for every other person, you just look at Linux. Linux is an operating system. Well, that's the general definition. But from the angle it's coming from now, Linux itself is the kernel of the operating system. By the time you now have your GNU and every other thing GNOME added to it, that is the aspect at which every other, you know, Linux is an open source operating system. The kernel itself is constant. But what you put on the kernel is what actually varies. Hello, please, let's have this fundamental very, very well. We are all system administrators, we are all researchers, so we need to understand this basic very well so that when we talk, and or when someone is talking somewhere, you can say, no, this is not it, this is how it is. Please. So whatever anyone is contributing, let's also listen to his own perspective. Like I said, it's an interactive class. If you don't agree to what he said that is a kernel, you can raise an objection to what he just said. Linux itself is a kernel. Do you understand? But generally speaking, we will just say everything that we see under Linux, we call it an operating system. That is also what? An open source. And we all know what an open source is. When we say something is an open, or an application or a software is an open source, do we know we have the understanding of that? That is freely available for us to be able to add our own and tweak it to fit in our need. That is when we say something is, a software is an open source. Do we agree to that? Please, let it be interactive. Please, I'm begging you. That is when I can flow. But if I'm just talking and you are not talking, I won't flow. That is me. That's why I say my class, I always want it to be interactive. Please, let it flow. When I'm talking, I need your response. If I'm just talking and I will just assume these people are not getting anything, I'm just talking to myself. That's my own assumption. If I'm teaching and I'm not getting response, I take it as if, or except when I'm talking alone, but when I ask questions, or else I won't flow, and things in me will not come out. So please, let it be so, please. So we know who brought about Linux, or the developer that brought about Linux. We all know what all happened then. Then we only have Unix, and Unix used to be commercial. But this guy just decided one day, I can't use my money to be buying, why is it closed, why that, and he was not happy. And he decided to come up with something of his own. And that is when we have Linux. And then the way they were looking at it then, as if it's not going to be a success, but gradually he was able to bring up something, and then from there other people were developing on it. And that is why we have different kind of variants of Linux operating system now, or any kind of open source software. So that is about that. We all also know that there are other operating systems different from Linux. We have like the Windows, that's the commonest, as in the common one. The MS-DOS those days, they are just basically command too. Then we were looking at it, MS-DOS, what will it do? But gradually Windows almost take over the market. But now I think there's a tussle. Thank you for that. There's a tussle between Linux now and other, and Windows and other operating systems. Sorry, I've just been speaking. Okay. I will just be using the slide as a guide, please. Sometimes I will talk beyond what is on the slide. Sometimes I not even mention some of those things here. But like you can see, Linux is a popular version of Unix operating system. It is open source, and the source code is freely available. It is free to use. Linux was designed considering Unix compatibility. Its functionality is like quite similar to that of Unix. So now, The question is that why are we using Linux? Why Linux? Can someone just come up? Like I said, interactive, please. Why are we came from different background. We need to interact very well. Not only in the class, even after leaving the class. Like I said, this is just an introduction. So we need to interact very well. Why do we use Linux? Or why do we go for Linux? Yes, ma'am. Because it's free. That's why you are. So you like free thing. Yes. You don't want to spend your money. That's why you are going for. Okay, please, can you tell us why Linux? What do you do? Software engineer. At the same time, what again? Just software engineer. Okay, and you use Linux very well. So I use only Linux. Thank you. So why are you using only Linux? Why are you not using other stuff? It started from personal experience of Windows. I was using Windows for maybe 3-4 years, and I started having some problems with my computer, and then I switched. You started having challenges with? Yes, with Windows. I couldn't do something. I don't remember. Okay. You are not hearing him? Okay. So, I was saying that I have a personal experience with Linux because I was developing in Windows and I challenged some issues and I couldn't solve it. So I switched to Linux, and first of all it was difficult, but I was finding solution for my problem. And since then I didn't switch to Windows again. So that's why I'm using only Linux, and it might be challenging, but you will always find your solution using Linux, I can tell you. Thank you very much. That is his own view. So I want another view. You can hear the reason why he's using Linux now. You can learn from his own reason, please. For some of you that might likely about to make some mistake, you can learn from what he's just saying now and then not make the mistake he had already made.
You reacted as though if the cost angle of Linux was not positive.
It's positive, but you just say free as if it's because it's free. That's why you want to use it. Yes, he has something to say. Why Linux? Why are you using Linux?
I think one reason why you should use Linux is because if you miss your files in using Windows, you may not be able to see some files in Windows. Linux, definitely you will see your files. Of course, Linux is virus free. Any virus you get from Windows, when you go to Linux, it doesn't see that. So you get your work back.
Do we agree with him? Do we agree with him? Other views? I need one more. I think you want to say something. No. You want to say something?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, when you are done, Louis. Okay. You want to say? Okay, just continue.
Okay, I've never used Linux before, but I have a friend who uses Linux like constantly. Like he partitioned his hard drive to use Linux and Windows.
Okay.
And one thing I noticed yesterday was that the updates on Linux are like a lot faster, and they don't like drag you back when you're working.
Okay.
Unlike Windows.
Okay. So you are saying that their updates are readily available for you to use. So not like Windows is Windows not readily available? It doesn't create problem like Windows. Is that what you are trying to say? Linux update doesn't create problem. That's why you decided to be using, or that's why you would prefer Linux. Okay.
Thank you. From my experience, I use Linux until 10 years. I think Linux is suitable for education and research.
Okay.
Because it is free.
Okay.
Then there is no money to spend. Well, no money to spend to learn with Linux.
Okay.
My experience that when I was in I was in university, we are we have done all things with Linux, implementing servers, implementing firewall,
Okay.
and if I take Windows, you can activate a firewall by clicking a button.
Okay.
But with Linux, you will learn how to implement firewall.
Okay.
So it is an example. All thing I can do with Linux, I don't do with
It's when
Windows. But there is something with exist in Windows. You are forced to use it. When
okay, that you don't actually need.
there is
In Linux, you can just make your selection
yes,
and use what you want to.
yes.
Okay.
By example, the Office suite, very little Office, you can use freely.
Okay.
Then
No problem.
if it is Microsoft Office, you will pay.
You pay for it.
Then I think that Linux is good for our country.
This man has used Linux very well. So let's take the mic from him. Okay, no. No, but from the way he spoke now, I think it's okay. It's still very much okay. So he's an experienced Linux user, and he has given us several instances why Linux is actually good and why we have decided to use Linux. At the beginning of his statement, he made mention of something. He said, as a researcher, as an educationist, Linux is the best to use for you, which I quite agree with him. You are a researcher. I believe quite a number of us are from research institution here. If you are not from research institution, you are a master's student. And even some of you are from institution or maybe, institution where you manage servers. And these days, I don't believe quite a number of organizations these days, they don't use Windows Server again. I know people still use Windows Server, but if you want to achieve quite a number of things, he talks about firewall. You want to implement firewall in your network and what have you go for Linux. You even have them freely available to a certain extent. Do you all understand that? So that's the reason why we have decided to see Linux is the best way to go for every one of us as a researcher, even as a practitioner. And let me just show us some other few reasons why we are using Linux. And some of these things you have actually mentioned them. We said it's open source, just like Mrs. Sweet Williams said, it's open source. And when something is open source, it's freely available to you to maneuver, to tweak, to fit in your need. One thing about Linux is that the kernel, like he said the other time, the kernel itself is there. You can now build different solutions to give you you can build different application on it to give you what you need. You can use it to get a firewall, to build a firewall, your DNS, something that will just be, the main function of that is just to serve as a DNS server for you. You can use it to do maybe a DHCP, quite a number of services, radio servers. So you have different kind of services that are built on Linux. Do we all understand? So that's why we call it open source. So it actually helps us to solve quite a number of problems that we don't need to pay money for. And secondly, is highly secured. That's part of why we are using Linux. It's secure more than Windows. I don't need to talk much about this. We all know that run on any hardware. There's rarely any hardware that you cannot use Linux. What I mean to say is that, like Windows, now if you want to run Windows 7 now on any laptop or any old system now, it might not allow you. It will say you need 4 gig of RAM. At least you need 40 gig of hard disk space and things like that. But Linux, even I can say that with 1 gig RAM, 5 gigabits of memory, you can still run quite a number of operating systems because they are very, very light, not like Windows. So it runs on many hardware. It's also free. And then we have variety of distribution. Just like I said, different distribution for different solutions. Do you understand? We have different kind of variants we'll still go to that. We have different kind of variants that you can use to achieve different kind of things. You just do, okay, what are my needs? You look at your need. When you go to Google, you want to use Linux. You just first define your need. By the time you define your need, you will now be able to go and Google. You will see different kind of open source applications or software that you can use to get your needs solved. You don't need to go to the market to buy them. There are quite more than thousands of them that you can use to solve your need. So we have variety of distribution, and then it has a large community of support. If you have any challenge in Linux, just go and Google. The support is always there. Let's not even go to the enterprise. You know, we can classify Linux as we have community, and then we also have enterprise. The enterprise, you pay for support, just like Red Hat. It's not freely available. But when you need support, you pay for a support, and they can assist you at any point in time. Those are the enterprise one. But for the community one, let's look at Ubuntu. Just go and Google it. You have CentOS. Different kind of that. You have quite a number of Linux operating systems. So the community to say, your community is actually there for you to support. Just go to their community, say, I'm having so and so challenge. You always get someone to respond. And if you didn't even get response, probably someone had solved that problem before. And then you will see that person response on how he solved that problem. And if you want to use it also, there are different kind of guide online that you can get to set up whatever you want to set up. So it has a large community. Then customization, just like we say, you can pick, like he's a software developer, he can decide to pick a particular open source and then tweak it in his own way and do different kind of manipulation on it. Do you understand? It's not closed like Windows now or like some open. He's a software developer. If you develop some software, you can close it. The code, you own it. You won't release it. And then so because you know you spend your time and so you want money before you can release it. You understand? So, but it's not like, Linux is not like that. You can customize it. Then update. Like he was also saying, someone was, Joshua was saying that for the update, please, I will also want to, anytime you want to talk, just tell us your name also, so that we can be calling ourselves. Let's familiarize ourselves very, very well. Sorry, can you tell me your name again? Sorry. I hope it's something I can pronounce. Sanon. Okay, at least Sanon is okay. That one, you can easily remember that one. Yeah, so please, am I communicating, please? Am I saying something? Please, if I'm just going to the bush, just call me back, please. So then we talk about the updates. Update is readily available and it's easily, you have repository, apt-get updates and different kind of things, pull it down and update for you without causing problem for you. Then it's highly stable and faster. Then perfect for programmers. I don't think most programmers these days, the people that use Visual.net, there's only a few set of people, but quite a number use the open source application for developer. Me, I'm not a developer. So I was saying something about distribution the other time. We have variety of distribution. As a system administrator, you should be familiar with the different kind of distribution that is available for you in the market to use. Linux distribution, or sometimes they call it distro, is an installable operating system. Please, can you help me move this a little bit? So how do you actually choose Linux distro? I will not read all through this. When choosing your Linux distro, the community distro. I've actually explained this in the course of my introduction, how you choose your distro, depending on what you want to solve. This, if you want it, it's just a PowerPoint. They are not details things. I just pick them as a point to guide my discussion. I believe that we will soon go to, is the practical section that I actually want us to concentrate. You can get the slide if you want it. But what I'm just trying to say is that the slide, there's no much even inside the slide. But we can, it's the practical section that we then go to. We'll not be able to get much. Yeah. So we have different kind of distribution. Like I said, we have Ubuntu, we have CentOS. Okay, we have, these are different kind of distro that we have. Fedora, Ubuntu. And one thing, how many of you use Ubuntu very well? For me, I like Ubuntu very, very well. So how many fans do I have here of Ubuntu? Sorry, I'm not advertising, no. Okay, sorry, if I will ask this question, please, I want, like I said, I want us to be this, almost on the same point. I don't want some people to be behind. I know some of us are very experienced. If you have not used Linux before, please don't be ashamed. We're all here to learn, please. If you have not used Linux before, just let me see your hands up. Okay, 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 okay. So please, for those of us that we have not, but are you getting my explanation? Because I'm starting from fundamentals. I know this thing, what I'm discussing now might be too fundamental for some people here, but like I said, this workshop is designed for basic and then for some people that we can now call intermediary. So we assume that you might not have experience before, but still you need to understand this fundamental, because after today, what we will be doing, please, oh, you will be reading, after leaving this class, you will go back to your hostel and be reading. I'm serious. So get your mind prepared, and we don't want this to be a waste. Why this workshop is also designed, you can see, it's designed for Africa, most especially sub-Saharan Africa. We don't have people that can work on high-performance computing very well in this part of the world. And this skill is highly needed. And if you go online, you won't find much, you won't find tutorial that can aid you as much as you need. So we are trying to build a community in Africa that we can come up together and solve our problem for ourselves. That's one of the reasons why we are having this workshop. The only place where I know you can get experts in Africa is probably in South Africa, Center for High Performance Computing. You will see them going outside the world, even winning competition with the Western world. But in this part of the world, we don't have much expert. So please, this workshop will not end after these 2 weeks. We want the community to continue. And what I'm trying to say is that after leaving here, if you are not that familiar with Linux, after leaving here, please go Google and read some things. Get yourself familiarized by tomorrow, so that when we start some complex, I'm not trying to make anyone afraid, please. I'm just trying to inform us that it's a great opportunity to be selected. There are quite a number of applicants, but for you to be selected is a great opportunity that you need to maximize very well. For those of us that come from outside the country, this thing is free and it's being sponsored by some set of people. So we should not just take it for granted. Let's see the value of their expenses on us, or of their investments on us. Please, as much as possible, don't take it lightly. Don't just take this opportunity lightly, because the people that will be taking us from tomorrow, they are experts, international experts. Due to COVID, some of them might not be able to join us here, but it's going to be remote. So please, let's take it very, very important, please. So like I was saying, if I'm too fast, for those of us that are just learning, please just raise up your hand and ask any question. Don't be ashamed, please. You are all here to learn. We can learn from one another. So ask questions very, very well. So I was saying something about Ubuntu. Ubuntu is one of the organizations that I like very well, because they help us solve quite a number of problems using open source. You can see we have different distros. Under Ubuntu now, we have different kind of version for different kind of problem. You know that. Ubuntu helps us to solve different kind of things. You see X Ubuntu, Ubuntu Mate, Ubuntu, all of them to meet a particular need. Do you understand? So that is why we call it open source, and quite a number of things can be built on it. Any question? So I expect us to ask questions now. Like I said, it's interactive. Any question? Someone is asking question. Eh? Thank you. Please tell us your name, please.
My name is John.
John
from DRC.
From where?
DRC.
Okay, DRC. His name is John from DRC.
I didn't see Kali Linux in that list.
Kale.
Kali, yeah.
Okay, Kali, yeah.
It's not.
I can't list. We have more than 500, more than 1,000.
Okay. No, it's not.
Yeah, that is. Do you hear what he said? We didn't see what? CApIC. And basically, who are the people that use that one? Who can tell me? Exactly. Hackers, that's the favorite for hackers. Are you an hacker? It's not bad to be an hacker, though. But are you the white or gray or black? Yeah, like I said, we can't list all the distro we have. There are quite many. Eh? Hello, sir. You understand? You said you didn't see it there. We have quite a number of them. If you want to mention 50 now, go and Google, you will see quite a number. Do you understand? Yeah. And then you can learn from what the question you just asked. Now, for some of you that have not heard of that before, you can write it down. If you want to be an hacker, or to know everything about security and all that, and look, so you can go and use CApIC. It will greatly help you to have some basic understanding. Are we? Any other question? CApIC Linus. Any question? Now? No question. So we can fire on. Now, Linux system architecture. If you want to use an operating system, which we know, not only operating system, any software that is built on Linux, but now we are even talking more about operating system, we should have a fundamentals of the structure or of the architecture, so that by the time you are using it, when any problems occur, you should even have an idea of what you are using. You have a car, and you don't know this is the gear, this is how the gear connects to this. You might not know the basic, but at least how you drive it, you should know. By the time you should put it to gear 1, is it gear 1 you need to do this function? You should have a basic understanding. You might not have an in-depth understanding, but at least just have a view of what Linux architecture is made of, or Linux operating system. So this is just a kind of view of what Linux operating system or Linux architecture is all about. We can see here in the middle, we have the hardware. Your hardware, which is your servers. You have it here. And you can see you have the kernel. Who can tell me the main function of a kernel? You can say the kernel is the core of the operating system itself. He said something right from the beginning of the lecture, that the kernel is not the operating system, but we can say kernel is part of the operating system, but it's not the main operating system. Do you understand? So you can see the kernel. I say it's like the core of the operating system. It's the one that actually helps the operating system in resource management. Do you get it? You can come in different definition of it, but that's just the basic understanding of what kernel is all about. For you, you know, in Linux operating system, you can have more than 100 users on a single operating system. Do we know that? Linux operating system can enable you to have as many users as possible. And these users, they use the same hardware resource at the same time. So it's the kernel that actually help in allocating the resources to all the users within the operating, or all the users of the operating system. So it's like the core of the operating system, and it's the one that actually help in resource management. Am I communicating? Please, let's get these fundamentals very well. I said we'll be going more advanced, but maybe after the launch, we'll now begin our practical. But let's just have this fundamental very, very well. Do you understand? Then you have what is called the shell. Do you know what the shell is? Okay. Who wants to tell me about the shell? Okay. Please, for some of us, are we learning something? Please, are we getting something? Okay. So he wants to tell us what a shell is all about.
I think that the shell is interpretation language, which can interface with application and the kernel. The instruction it can interpret and send to the application.
Yeah. Okay. He's trying to tell us what a shell is. He said it's like an interpreter, it's like an interface, it's like a mediator. Okay.
We can say shell is a program that helps user to interact with the kernel.
That's what you want to say. Yeah. So it's like an intermediary. It helps you to be able to interact with the kernel. You as a user, we still get to that now. Okay, let me jump to that. Okay, then every other thing we now have different kind of application built around it. This is just the definition. Oh, sorry, I didn't even know the definition is actually here. Okay, but you have the understanding now. Do you have the basic understanding of this architecture? Please, do you? If not, let me have raise up your hand. You have the hardware, then the kernel. The operating system itself is built on the kernel. Do you understand? Then the operating system now comes with different kind of utilities. Am I saying something? Am I saying something? Uh-huh. So we now have the other application built around it. We call it the utility program that provide the user most of the functionality of an operating system. That's what the utility is all about. And then we have talked about the shell is like the interface to the kernel. So do we understand this very well? Do we on any question on this? No. Ask question, please. Now, this is its components of a Linux. We are still going back to almost similar to where we are coming from now. But yeah, I just broke it down for us so that we can have a view. I believe we are all scientists. And we have engineers here. And one thing that helps engineer or scientists, okay, for me, that's the way I do my own. And I believe that we are not, I'm not trying to rubbish one, this thing or the other. We are not economics, we are not historian and all that. We are engineers, we are scientists. And as a scientist, as an engineer, you should be able to imagine things and build it, see it in your mind. Like the programmer, quite a number of things is first imagined before they put it down with code. The same thing engineers. Why I'm going deep into all this is just for us to have the structure and have an understanding of what you are using and being able to imagine what you are using and as if you are seeing it physically. So that's why I just want to extend to this again. Like I said initially, you have your physical hardware, and your hardwares are made up of what? Your CPU, your memory, your devices. Then you have your kernel. Your kernel is actually the one, I said it like, is the one that manages your resources for you. And that is why you have it directly on the hardware before you now have your what? Your operating system at the top. And that is where we call the user space. And how do you now interact with this? You use your GUI, that's graphic user interface, or your shell, that's your terminal, to now interact with all this. So this your kernel will help you to manage this. But at the long run, is this hardware that you are using. Do you understand? So that's just how the structure, the components of a Linux actually help you in doing whatever you want to do. Do we get this architecture very well? Are we okay with that? So now, okay, I think I've also discussed all this. We've discussed Linux. I've discussed this already. That's one thing I said. Sometimes I have gone ahead to discuss some of the other things. So now I'm just asking, what is kernel? We've actually discussed kernel in the course of discussing those diagrams. You understand? We all know what kernel is. Maybe I will still share this, but you can get all these resources, even more than this, from the internet. These are just PowerPoints. And again, okay, we've also discussed about the function of a kernel. Memory, okay, these are other functions of a kernel. Memory management, keep track of how much memory is used to store what and where. Do you understand? Process management also, determine which processes can use the central processing unit when and for how long. So that's what the kernel does for you. So by the time you are using your system, something at the background is actually doing some work for you. You might not know. Then device driver act as a mediator interpreter between the hardware and the processes. Then system calls and security. So that is all the function of a kernel. Then the shell also. The shell is basically your interface to the Linux kernel, like I said in the previous diagram. So this is just explaining the other, This is just explaining everything here, just a kind of breakdown. But I think we have talked about all this. It's a program that basically will take your keyboard command and pass them on to the kernel where they will be executed. Do you understand? In Linux in a Linux system, the shell is a command line interface that interprets a user's command and script file and tells the server operating system what to do with them. Do you get that? Then there are several shells that are widely used. Okay, let's talk about this a little bit. We have what we call the bash and then the C shell. But commonly, I think by default, most of these operating systems, like the one we use, the CentOS and the Ubuntu, they use the bash shell. So you might go and read more about the bash shell. This class is not meant for us to dive into everything, because if you want to discuss kernel alone, we can use more than 2 hours to discuss each of those things. But it's just like an overview. Do we understand? We might not be able to dive into everything, but it's like an overview, and we just have today for that overview before we begin to do other things. But just have an understanding of what you want to do, because from tomorrow, everything we'll be using is going to be open source. But let's even start from open source operating system. Whatever we want to use in this workshop is going to be open source. Now, terminal emulators. We are about to dive in. What's the time? 12. So we have the next 1 hour for us to do a little bit of diving into the practical. But before we do that, terminal emulator. How many of you are, how many of you, your system is actually, or your operating system is Linux? Let me see your hands up. Linux OS. Linux OS, just 2. Linux OS. So which one you are using now? Windows. So you are using the one you brought for this workshop is what that you want to use for this workshop. What? Linux. Let me see your hands up. So we only have 3. Okay. So that means Mac. How many of us are Mac? Okay. Mac OS. Okay. Just 2. Windows. Hallelujah. Okay. But you know now, what we want to do now is most of the things we'll be doing, they are not directly on our system. Though other workshop, we might have to install virtual machines on our system. But for this class, I don't want us to go into that, because if you go into that again, it take extra time. Do you understand? By the time I say install VirtualBox, download the OS, install it, it will already take us like an hour to do that, which we don't have much time. So what I've done is that we've created a server remotely, that we've created each user that you will log in for this practical class. So you will be logging. You have internet login. Do you all have internet login? You have all logged into the internet. Then you all have your server login details. How many of you have not gotten your server login details? Please, Enoch, help me. Server login details. But that's where we are going to very soon. We will go through, is when we come back from we'll go through how you will log in, how it will work. But when we now come back, we will now start it. By then you would have at least, I know some of you are hungry now. How many of you are hungry? Don't mind me. I like joking. I just want it to be as simple as possible. So the Linux people, this is where you belong. So this is what you'll be using. That means you already have terminals. Though you can use your CMD, the command, but we don't want that for Windows users. We want you to install some terminal emulating program. But I use PuTTY, and I believe most people use PuTTY. So we are voting for, okay, let me not be close. You can use any terminal emulator. At least it's just to achieve the main objective. Before I go into that, what is a terminal emulation program? Who can give me the definition of that? How many of you have not heard of terminal emulation before? Be sincere. You are here to learn. If you know it, you wouldn't have come. That's just the fact. So not knowing it is not something we are all learning. I can learn from you, you can learn from me. So it's just for me to know It's just for you to guide my discussion with us. Terminal emulating programs. They are programs that actually enables you to be able to remotely log in into some remote devices elsewhere. And one of them is PuTTY that we are talking about. There are quite a number, but me, I'm not even diving into other. As PuTTY is meeting my need, so I don't need to go and be using other. But PuTTY is okay for me. So one thing I want us to do as we speak now, for the Windows user that don't have PuTTY on their system, go now, Google PuTTY and download and install on your system now. Please do that now. If you don't have PuTTY on your system, Joaquin, which system are you using? You have PuTTY. Where's your system? Where's your system? So how many of us don't have a laptop here? You can't be in this workshop without ga. No. It's not accepted. No. So what's your plan now? You can't be in this workshop without having a system. It's not possible. It's not possible. So what's your plan? What's your name? Miriam. You borrow her. So, okay. Yes. Someone just mentioned, yeah, that is also good. It can work. So, we need a laptop for those. You can use that. Yeah, PowerShell. You just mentioned something now, PowerShell, which is also okay for Windows users. You can use PowerShell. Install PuTTY. Okay, no, wait now. Use your terminal. Just search and type terminal. It will bring out what you can use. So please, for those of us that don't have laptop, do you have, okay, you said you will give her. What of you? Do you have one? You have, okay. No, I want to know if you can give her, please, get a laptop for her. So what are you now saying? It won't work for her. Sometime. Okay. Okay, you have. Please, you have a laptop. Where's your laptop? It's in the hostess. Oh, during the lunch, including yours too. Okay, but okay, you were the one asking terminal emulation. You have an understanding of terminal emulation now. Okay, so please, I want us to install PuTTY on our system. Yes, you are good. With this, you are good. Yeah, you are okay. So because you are Mac user, so you have terminal by default. You can see it. We said default is already there for you to use. You can use that. For Windows, it says something. You can use PowerShell if it's on your system. But it's also good you can use PuTTY. I'm more comfortable with using PuTTY on Windows. Then for the Linux user, this is what you can use. So are we on the same page? Are we on the same page? So, and we now have an understanding of what terminal emulating programs are. Terminal emulators. Do you have understanding of it? So when they mention terminal emulators, you have understanding of it. From tomorrow, please, you need to get this set on your system. Because from tomorrow, everything you are doing will not going to be on your system. Your system is just like an interface that will help you to access the servers that you will be working on. Do we understand? So please, after the launch, I want everyone, if you can't lay your hand on any laptop, please let me know after this class if we can make provision for you. But please, just make yourself, just let us know. Because from tomorrow, we don't want anyone to be behind tomorrow. and we can't. Okay, so how many of you need laptops now that don't have? Please, you want us to get for you, but you said you can lay, you have. It's just that it's not here, and you can bring it. So it's only one. And sorry, what's your name again? Let me know your name. You also, the two of you also have. You said you will bring it after the class. Sorry, after the lunch. So we only need one. So, because from tomorrow, even after this class, like I say, we are just building the fundamentals, and we're about to get there now. And it's from here. From tomorrow, this is what we'll be using. Or from after the lunch, this is what we'll be using, please. So, like I said, please do that now. For those of you that have your system with you, get to the terminal emulator now. Please. Are we all there? Are we all there? Are we there? Okay. I just ensure, okay, if you are not there, just hold on a little bit. Let's just go through this fundamental also. Please listen very well. Please listen very well. This is very important because some of us we are not used to managing server before now. It's not something we do every time. We have been using our laptop alone. And like I said, from tomorrow, everything you will be doing is not going to be on your local system. So we must start the practicing today before we get to the complex thing. Do you understand? So now there are two ways by which you can connect to your servers, or we might say system. We say by console connection. And when we mean console connection, that means you are directly in front of the system. Let's say this is your server. You have your keyboard connect to it. You have your mouse. Okay, you might not even need mouse. So you are in front of it directly connecting to it. So anytime you hear console connection, that means you are directly in front of your system, face to face with your system. And then we have remote connection, connecting using terminal emulator via IP address or the host name of the system. And that is the method we will be using in this workshop, at least for most parts of this workshop. By the time we get to the Kubernetes class, probably we might need to install virtual machine. Before that class, we will give you every requirement that you need to get prepared for before that actual class. Do we understand? So for this class, we'll be doing most of our connection, or most of our practice remotely. We'll be connecting remotely to some servers. And before we do that, I said we'll be using IP address. How many of you know what we call IP addresses? Network engineers in the house? Yeah. I think for every one of us here, we know what an IP address is. If you have not heard of IP address before, let me see your hand. Okay. So let me just give you a brief on what an IP, a brief of IP address. IP address itself, if you want to discuss it, we can use 3 weeks on IP addresses. But let's just give a brief of what an IP address is. An IP address is an address used in order to uniquely identify a device on an IP network. We call it IP network. There are different types of network. But now on an IP network, the network we have now, so every one of us, I want to believe we are all logged into the internet. And every of your devices must obtain an IP before it can be part of a network. So for any device to be on a network, it must have what? An IP address. One. So now we believe that your device has an IP address. And when you see this, 190, this is just an example of an IP address. So this is the format in which you have IP address is written, basic. Do we understand? Do we understand? Okay. Then we have different type of IP addresses. We have what we call private IP, and we have what is called public IP. What is a private IP? Who can tell me what a private IP is before I say what it is? A private IP? You want to say something? Say something now. Say something. You know what department are you? I see. Okay. Yeah, say something.
An IP, a private IP is a IP address that can be used in the local network.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Private IP is an IP address that can be used locally, and that means it's not reachable from outside. Do you understand? Whatever you have here, let's assume this is a local, like the IP your system is currently connecting to is a private IP. So you can't give someone your IP address now. Let's say the person is in Benin Republic or is in Senegal. The person cannot remotely connect using your IP address to your system. That's what a private IP is all about. But let's assume a public IP, just like the names imply. A public IP is an IP address by which is reachable from anywhere all over the world. I can give you my public IP, the public IP of my machine or my server, for you to remotely connect. In as much as I open up the security, the remote desktop, the SSH and all that, I can allow you to remotely connect from wherever you are all over the world. That's with you, my IP address. And that is why all the servers you are visiting now, they all have an IP address. Do you understand? That is why they are reachable from wherever you are. Wherever you go to now, you can reach those servers. Facebook, Google, Covenant University website, talk of all of them, they all have public IP, and which is resolved with the DNS domain name. Do we understand? And these are just example of private IP and then the range in which they belong to. Hello, class. Are we getting it? And so why we are going into this is that you need the understanding of this very, very well, of what an IP address is all about, the essence of an IP address, and what a private IP is all about. Even when you see an IP address, you should be able to tell that this is a private IP or this is a public IP. You should be able to identify that. And that is why I gave us the ranges which they belongs to. Do we understand? Any questions as related to that? And I believe you have understanding of an IP address. You know what subnet is. You know that. Okay, we are not going deep into that, but just have an understanding that IP address is what actually uniquely identify any machine on an IP network. And for you to be able to reach any machine on the network, it must have an IP address. Okay, I gave you, sometimes ago, you were given a username and a password. For what now? I said it's for a server. Without me giving you the IP address, you can't connect. Even though I tell you that there is a server you have to connect to, and you have the username and the password, but you don't have the IP. So there is no way you can connect to it now, because you don't know the address of the server. And you can also liken IP address just like the way you have street houses and street numbers allocated to each houses. So that's almost the same thing an IP address is doing. Do we understand? So, and at the same time, you have what is called static IP. Please follow what I'm saying very well. They are very important, and they are terminologies that we'll be using in the course of this workshop and even as you practice. Do you understand? And as you are setting up different services. I've mentioned that we have private IPs, and we also have public IP. And I've told us what an IP address is all about. And now I'm telling you now that we have what is called static IP and dynamic IPs. Now, for all our servers, okay, let me first explain what a static and a dynamic IP is. A static IP, just like the names just like the name, is what you allocate and then is static on that system. You yourself allocated it to that machine and you type it in and you save it for that machine. It's not dynamically obtained from a DHCP server. Do we understand? Hello, do we understand that? So that means a static IP, you yourself assigned it to that machine. But for a dynamic IP, that means the machine obtains the IP from a DHCP server. That means there is a DHCP server on that network, just like all the system you have here now. You were not the one. I said all of them have their unique IP address, but you were not the one that actually gave them those IP addresses. It's a DHCP server on the network that allocated all the IP address on each of these laptops we have here now. Do we understand? And now, as a server administrators, what you need to do, most of the machine you will be administering, we have to have what we call static IP address. Because if you allow dynamic IP, that means anytime the system is booting up, or maybe anytime the system is down, and you want to put it up again, it might obtain another IP. So for you to be able to access it and guess, it might be difficult for you. So any machine that you feel you'll be accessing remotely all the time, or that you don't want the IP to be changing from time to time, you need to give it what? A static IP address. Do we understand? These are fundamental, but they are very important. So you know what a static IP is and a dynamic IP. Do you understand that now? Okay. The next thing is we now have different versions of IPs too. We have, before it was only one version. We only know IPv4. But this day we talk about IPv4 and IPv6. And why do we have IPv6 now? Who can tell me? We have IPv4 and we have IPv6. Most of our machines now are still using IPv4. But I want to believe in the next 10 to 15, 20 years now, we might not be talking about IPv4 again. Some people have started migrating fully to IPv6. But who can tell me the essence why we have IPv6 now? Sorry, we are all technologists. Sorry, what do you call them now? We are all IT, so we should have some basic tech user or tech administrator. Tech users, okay. Are we just users? Okay, yeah, we are users, yeah. Tech, we are experts, so we should have understanding of all these small things put together. Do you understand? So now I'm asking the question now, because we are using IPv4 before, but now we are now using IPv5. I know we have network engineers here. Please, if you're a network engineer, please let me see your hands up. Okay, no, I want another person. Now, the two of you have talked. Let me talk. So please let me know why we have IPv6 now.
Because IP version 4 is already exhausted.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we have IP version 6.
Okay, thank you. Do we understand what he just said? He said IPv4 is exhausted, and that is why we are moving to IPv6. How many of you agree to that, or you have something to add to it? Do you have anything to add to what he just said? Yes, IPv4 is getting exhausted, if not exhausted. I want to believe it's just probably Africa that has not fully, probably by now, maybe they have fully exhausted their IPv4. By the time you go to Afrinic database or Afrinic, you discover that I think maybe I want to believe maybe by now we should have exhausted everything. But as in allocated, let me say allocated, because there is still IPv4 that has not in use, but they must have been allocated to persons or to organizations, but they are not currently in use. So we can say every of those IPv4 have been allocated to persons or to organizations. Do you understand? And now it seems as if there are no more IPv4 to be allocated. And then in the next 5 years, if care is not taken, that means you might not be able to have new devices on the network again that needs a public IP. And you know where technology is going now. We are talking about IoT, Internet of Things. So when we say Internet of Things, that means all devices, even your clothes, your wristwatch, things like that, your fridge, will be on the network. You remotely be connecting or managing your devices on the network. So that is to say that every of those devices will need what? Their own IP addresses. So if you want to stick to IPv4, that technology might not be achievable. So we need to now start thinking about IPv6. Do we understand? That's the essence of IPv4 and IPv6. And from what you can see, and I just gave a little description, an IPv6 address uses 128 bits as opposed to 32 bits in IPv4. IPv6 addresses are written using hexadecimal as opposed to dotted decimal in that is IPv4. Special address IP ranges. Okay, then we have another IP addresses that we call special addresses, which I want us to also be familiar with. There's what we call loopback address. How many of you, I know the programmers should know about this very well, and then the network engineers. We have what is called a loopback address, and this is the 127.0.0.1. Who can tell me what the loopback address does? Anyone here? Larry, you want to talk? Okay. How many of you have heard of loopback address, or you have even seen it? You have been using it?
Sometimes you use loopback address to test TCP model on our machine. To test if we have IP address or we can use TCP model on our machine.
Yeah. It's correct. So most time is used for your testing of your local, at least to be sure that it's working well. So do we have good understanding of that? So after that, we are getting to a place gradually, because all this thing I'm discussing now, please, we need this understanding very, very well. We need this understanding very, very well. So now I want to just us to discuss something about port number. We are discussing Linux, but these are very important because we know where we are going to. We have what we call port number. A port is a virtual point where network connections start and end. So every services, they have their own port number, and we have quite a number of those services. We say ports are standardized across all network connected devices, with each port assigned a number. Most ports are reserved for certain protocol, e.g., we have hypertext transfer protocol, that's HTTP, using what? Port 80. So port number allow targeting of specific or application within devices. Ports are software-based and managed by a computer operating system. Ports allow computer to easily differentiate between different kind of traffic. So that is what our ports are actually help us to achieve. So how many of you how many of you are just hearing port number? I want to know if I need to dwell on it. Port number. Port number. Do you all have an understanding of what port number is? Yeah, they actually also help us in our security. You block services based on port number. So as you are talking about IP, you also have port number, and we will still get to that very soon. Do you understand? You know, we have port number and we have IP address. They are two different things. And IP, like it's been said, a port is a virtual point where network connection starts and end. So it enables you, if I give you an IP address and I say connect to this service, if I block the service from the firewall using the port number, you will not be able to access, despite the fact that you have the IP. Just like I was saying that your IP address will enable you to be able to remotely connect to a device. But if I block the port number, despite the fact that you have the port and the IP address, you won't be able to get to the device. Do we understand? Okay. Now, these are common port numbers. You have your DNS, UDP 53. These are just various port number, telnet. In this our class, we'll be using what? SSH. Secure Shell Terminal. In all our communication, we'll be using Secure Shell. And we'll be using TCP 2222. That's the port number. So after the IP address, but one thing is that you can decide and give your services another port number different from the common one, just for security purpose. So it must not be 222. You can decide to, for your own server, because you know that 22 is common. Everyone knows that for SSH is 22. You can decide to assign another port number to your SSH. Do we understand? Do we understand? Are we getting tired? We are just starting. No, this is just the first day. So don't be tired. It's just the theory. Now, remote connection to server via IP address. Remote connection using SSH ports. Okay, we've discussed this. Now, we are going to start something now. Have you all installed your SSH and your PuTTY? PuTTY. We want to start connecting to our servers. So please, to your terminal, I want to give you an IP address now that you will all use for this connection. Okay, maybe. Okay, maybe in the next class. In the next class. So, are we all there? Please, we want to start let's start putting ourselves in that mood now. Please, we have come here for a purpose. So dedicate these 2 weeks for that purpose as much as possible. Please, the practical session, we are just about what we want to start now is just a tip of the, how do you call tip of the as badge. So this is just remote connection. By the time we now remote and connect, we will now start the real work. Please, I'm begging us, we want to maximize this opportunity very well. Do you understand? So that by the time we start other sessions that we will start, they are more complex than this. So please, this is just the fundamental, and let us cooperate very well so that the class can move fast and can move smoothly. Do we understand? So please, now we can do our remote connection now. I will give you an IP address, but get to your terminal emulation now. Yeah. So we'll be connecting to a server remotely now. Before I explain what is on the board, I just want us to remotely connect to the server. Okay. Okay. After this, I just have like 2 or 3 slides here. 1, sorry, 2, 3. That means the next, after the launch, we are just doing practical. So you must all participate. It's a must, please. And that is where you now be able to know how skill. And this, the good thing about this is the more you do these things, that the thing sticks with you. If you are doing 1 or 2 now, you omit the other. By the time we start the following days, you will be lost. So please, as much as possible, participate and take advantage of this opportunity. So you will be connecting to 102.67. Just hold on first. Okay, maybe we'll be doing it together. 106. Or can you help me put it on board? Okay. 102.67, 38.50. 38.50. Oh, sorry. I was calling 102 and I was writing 106. Okay. There's even one mistake there. So very soon we'll get to the end of the PowerPoint and then we'll start the deal. 102.67.38.50. And we'll be connecting via what? I said something via one particular port, SSH, and the default.
22.
Okay. Please. The virtual users are asking. Enoch, have you adjusted the? How many do we still have? So, show you help us. Show you help us. No, no, this is the user 8. Take this. This is internet link. No, just they are about to log. Yeah. So we'll be. So for anyone that require the IP address and the username and password, they should just make their request online, and we specify who we are giving that particular one to. So you just specify that this belongs to this person requesting. So for anyone that require the login details for the server, we'll make it available online, please. Okay, just private chat the person. So the person will be private. So are we there? Okay, and like I said, is SSH. The other time I talk about the different ports that we have. So for this now is SSH. Who can tell me the default port number for SSH? 22. So you should also learn to know some of these port number offhand. But I can decide because of security purpose, probably in my DMZ or on the server, I reconfigure my port number and said, okay, for every SSH connection, this is the port number. So even though you know the IP address and probably you've gotten my password, if you don't know the port number that I use, you might find it difficult to connect to my server. And I think it's good I let you know this for security purpose. Part of the training, part of this workshop, we're going to be doing security too. There will be a workshop on security. I think that should be the last day. So please take note of that. For security purpose, it's always good for you to change your port number. But for this, we are using the default, which is what? Port 222. So I want you to, sorry, 222. So 22. So are you there? Are we all there? Have we logged in? No, you can connect. Don't do anything, please. You can if you know how to go in. Oh, SS. No. Okay. No, you stop putting. You use SSH command. SSH, your username. So you do SSH. Where's Dari? Okay, your assistant. That's what I want to call it. Yes. Yes. So if you are using Putty, how many of you are using Putty now? Okay. So how many of you are having difficulty in connecting? Oh, no, don't connect to this. Connect to. You are not seeing the. What of the. Connect to this. No, you better call them low. We are logging. Log into the. Okay, are you logging to the internet? Yeah. Okay. No, what I'm saying now is that you use terminal emulator. This is what you're going to use. Have you installed it? No. Is it the Putty? Yeah, the Putty. Okay, no. Possibly I didn't install it well. So let's download it again. Go to Google. And then you can. So type in PuTTY. So download PuTTY. So look for the one that is best for you. Download this one. Download it. Okay. Is your machine 64 bits or?
Yeah.
64 bits. So that's it. So are we all there? Okay, we are trying to be there. Do you have PuTTY on your system? You have PuTTY. Okay, you are using. But have you connected to it? Please don't do anything yet on the server. Please. Don't do anything yet. Yeah, click open. So hold on. Emma, please, have you responded to those two chats? The two. I didn't. IP address again, please. Okay. Have you responded to all these, please? You. Permission deny way.
I use PowerShell.
I use PuTTY, let's see.
Why is it saying this?
Yes, it's a security alert, so you say yes.
Okay.
So that you register with your system.
I'm there.
Yeah.
So log in as who now?
Your
That's
username.
this one.
Yeah.
How do I do it? There are two things.
Your name is user 2. This is your password. Your name is user 2.
So it's asking for my username now.
Yeah, which is user 2. Just install PuTTY. Enter.
Will you prompt me again?
Yes. Password.
My password. It's case sensitive.
Yes. So, how many of you have logged in? Okay.
Go ahead and accept me.
Yes. Uh-huh. You are there. So, where's your username and password? So, you are user 24 is your name, and your password is that. Okay. So, you can log in. I said don't do anything yet, please. Just log in and watch. Are you there? Do. Okay, I will let you know. I will let you know. Do SSH. No, a name. No, SSH. Go back and use user what? What's the name? User 1. SSH user 1 at. Use user 1 at. Yeah, that's IP.
Okay. That's 68. That's 67. That's 38. That's 59. Okay.
So, are we all there? How many of you have not been able to connect? If you're having difficulty in connecting to the server, please let me have your hands up.
For Windows users or
No, you should log into it. So since you can decide to use this if you like. but you can also log into the server if you like. But I think it's better we're on the same platform. So you can log in, use this to log in. You can use SSH to log in from here.
Okay.
Mm.
I thought that the user, Windows user will use a putty.
Yes, Windows user will use putty. But that's what I'm saying. I'm giving you an option. Since you have a Linux system, you can use your Linux. But I also now said, instead of that option, let's be on the same platform. Let us all connect to the server. So don't use your local system. Use your server. Because everything we'll be doing mostly in this workshop, we're assuming that you are connected. So let's start practicing. I know you're an expert, but just connect to that server so that we're all on the same platform. So you just do SSH at that to your system, to your server. That is a thing. Enoch now need a tutorial, but that is an expert, so it's a thing. You were there already now. Oh, you see, wait, you say inactive, so it has disconnected. So you close it. Yeah, type putty here. It will bring it out for you. Yeah. So type it again.
This is the syntax. It is right.
The port.
I use arroba and.
No, it's okay like this. Cancel this. You can click enter now. No. SSH user 16 at. No, don't put the port number.
Okay.
Since it's default. Okay, yes. Just say yes. Yeah, but it has not asked. It's asking for the fingerprint. So you type yes. So now the password greater than. Are we all there? Before we go ahead, I want us to do something. I will explain something, but before that, I just want it to be easier for every one of us. I know the password is a little bit complex. So the first thing you will learn in this workshop, I will still explain some few things to us, but I want us to just quickly do something before we go ahead, because some of you might lost connection now. You want to retype in. Then I want everything, your password to be in your head. No need of using that paper again. So that means you will change your password right away. Do we understand? So what are you going to do to change your password? I don't know how I will communicate that to you. Type pass. Okay, are you there? Yes. Okay, let me also log in and can I? Okay, I think it's good I also demonstrate some few things here. Let's do it together. So what's the IP? So are we all here? So look at the board now. Look at the screen, sorry. Are we all at this point? If you are not here, let me see your hands up. Like I said, please, from tomorrow, we'll be doing more of this. After some theory, we'll be typing command and all that. So we have to quickly get ourselves familiarized with this. So are we all here? Beyond, I don't go beyond. Okay, you have logged in, okay. So let me also log in. Yeah. So we are all here. So we are all at the same point. So I said before we continue, just to make the work easier for every one of us, because I know the password is complex. So we want to all change our password now. Or we assume that probably some of you have stolen some password. But those are part of the thing you should learn. So what we want to do is we want to change password. So you type SWD password for user Bola. Am I correct? Yes. What's my current password? Yeah. It's not, sorry, you are not writing it in full. Pass WD. That's the command. We have started, please. Sorry, we have started though. We have started using command now. So pay attention very well. Pay attention very well. And they are case, okay, another thing I didn't tell us is they are case sensitive. Anything you are typing in Linux, any command, they are case sensitive. So make sure you use the right case, please. So we want to change, for convenience sake, I want you to put the password. You all know your user. Either user 1, user 2, user 3. But your password seems as if you have to look at it before you type it. So you can misplace your paper, your sheet now. If you like, you can throw it away after changing your password. But at least you can remember the user you are. So probably user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4. Do you understand? So, but your password now, you need to change it. So I want to change my password. It's asking for current password. Password unchanged, token manipulation error. Okay, so type it if you like. Okay. Okay, the reason why I said that was I was using the same password, so I don't want to. But do you know what to do? So you now type in your new password now. After this, when you type password, your user, if you are password, user 3. Okay. Oh, you can't see. Okay. How do you even increase this? How do you magnify it now? Ima? They can't see the command from back. Yeah. Where do I maximize it? No, it's here. Use it here. I think there's a way they do. There's a way you magnify it. Dari, please come and magnify it for me. Window. Okay. What he's saying is, okay, let me reset it. So I'm supposed to exit, but don't worry. I know, but there's a way they normally settings, Abby. So where is this? There's a way you also do it from the system. Change the font size. Change font size only. Maximize. Change font size only when maximize. Change the size of the font. So should we change the size of the font?
Font size.
To what? Okay, sorry, no. Is there a way to save?
Expand the selection tab. Windows selection tab. Expand it. Oh, no. That's the color. Maybe we should implement to see what.
And then you can also change font style when maximize. Okay,
That,
no, just change font style.
it's okay. So, but why is it not? There's nothing to save, sure.
Login.
Okay.
So let me just go back to log.
Okay. Just. What
Bonnie.
did you get there? The task is online. Okay, connect. Let's check connection. Okay. Suspected.
102. Toby, no.
No, you say we're maximize. Oh.
I think it's bigger now.
It's bigger.
Hello, sir. Hello. Can you see it now? Yes. Okay. So this is where we are now. So have we all changed our password? Or you don't know how to do that? How many of you have not changed your password? You have not changed yours. Oh yeah, do, please. I want us to be on the same. But do you know how to do it? Okay. So do we all get that? So you can decide to tear that sheet we gave you now. You don't need to keep it. So now, the new password, exactly, of course, they should know now. The new password you change it to should be in your head. Eh? Please keep the password. That means if you lost it, that means you might not be able to log in again. So don't lock yourself out. So before we continue, I want to just explain something to us so that we have understanding of this very well. Look at the screen very well. At this point here, this highlighted point. We just have 4 minutes for this class. So let me quickly explain this part to you so that you will understand very well. Now, there are some signs that you should take notice of while using Linux. You know, when you are using your laptop, you know your user, you know the name of your laptop, you know all your, when you are in home directory, when you go to your C drive and all that, you all know that. The same thing applies to Linux. It has its own format too. So what you need to do here is, first and foremost, let's look at this prompt. We call this prompt. This highlighted section, we call it, this is a prompt. So now we want to analyze all these prompts one after the other. And I would like to start from here. What sign is this? It's a dollar sign. Am I correct? Yes, sir. This dollar sign, when you see the dollar sign, it means you are just an ordinary user. You are just a user. You know, in Linux, you have root user. That's the one you call an admin user. Then you have just an ordinary user. So how do you know whether you're an admin user or an ordinary user when you log in into a session or into a server? What will make you to know is this. If this is an what? A dollar sign. And then this one that follows, what do you call this sign? Tilde. Is it tilde or tilde? Pronounce it. You say what? Ampersand. Is that German or what? What do you call it? Tilde. I think it should be tilde. Tilde, Abi. It's okay. You are calling it in French. I think it's tilde. 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 In French or in English? So, you are from which country? Benin. Eh? Tanzania. Benin. Ah, you Benin. Don't take over. Okay. So it's tilde. I think I know it as tilde. So which one? Okay, and. Okay, and. Okay. So when you see this tilde, it means that you are in the home directory. Please watch very well. You will be doing quite a number of things. You will be moving from the way you go from your drive C to to your C, to another drive, to another file. We will be doing that too, and it's with command. So you need to have this understanding very well. Navigating around, that's part of what we'll be doing in this class. But my major concern is that there is no much time, and I still want you to understand these fundamentals very well. We have not done anything yet too. We have not done anything. So this shows that we are what? We are in the home directory. The tilde sign shows that we are in the home directory. Then this bola you are seeing, if I had known, it would have been another name. This first bola that you are seeing, you know, now we have two bola, but this bola thereafter is what? The name of the server. That's the host name of the machine. Is what is called bola. Do you understand? That's that machine. The name of that machine is what is called bola. You saw it, Abi. So now, the name that comes thereafter, after the bola, you now see at. I started from this front. So the last one now is you. The name at which you use in logging into the server. That's the one that starts it. So for all of you now, you'll be seeing user 1 or user 2 or user 3. That's the name of the person that is logging in into the server. Then you now saw at. The next thing, next server the server you will log in tomorrow might not be bola again. But when you see, you should know that that's the name of the server that you are logging in at. Do you understand? So that one tells you, this other bola tells you that that's the name of the server. Then the next thing, the tilde sign, tells you that what? That you are in the home directory. Do you understand? And then the dollar sign tells you what? That you are just an ordinary user. Are we okay? Yes, sir. Any question? We want to keep to time very well, because by 3 o'clock there will be an opening ceremony here. So we have to, it's 1 o'clock now, am I correct? Yes. So we can quickly, 1:01, we can quickly go for our lunch. Like I said, when we come, we are about, this is, okay, let me check the slide. No, you know we have two bolas here. Yeah, bola is the name of the server, but me, I log in as bola. So any question? Do we understand these fundamentals? Do we understand these fundamentals? Please, if you have any question, let me, when we come back now, it's purely practical. The only thing I've not said here now, let me check the PowerPoint. I'm not sure if there's any. Okay, this is also very important for us to discuss, because this is where we'll be moving from one place to the other. Just the directory structure in Linux is also very important for us to know this. I've put the functionality so you can navigate from one aspect to the other. It's also very important. So we'll just talk briefly on this, then we now go to practical. So we can call it a what? Not a day yet, but we can call it what? A break. Okay. Thank you very much. So, times for lunch. Oh, you said? We are resuming 2:45. By 2:45, we ought to have been here. 2:30, please. 2:30. So, please, bring your laptop. Please. We are doing practical, please. I'm not just talking. We are implementing. Yes, you can leave your devices here. It's going to be safe. There is security. I believe we don't have, among us here, there is no barao. Know what they call barao? That's the tip. So, thank you very much. So, I hope, okay, you will be led to the guest house where you have your lunch. So, enjoy yourself, but don't eat too much, so that when you come back, you don't sleep. Eh? No, you'll be given tickets. Ticket. Is it Mrs. Ajayi or Mrs. Ajayi? Oh.